SiriusXM. I'm Olivia Landis, joined by Eric Allen here outside of the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. The Jets just finished practice out here at the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. They are preparing for their Week 4 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yes, people, I'm from Colorado. I say Jaguars, not Jaguars. And they're coming off an unfortunate loss to the Cleveland Browns. But you were just inside the locker room. What was the vibe from the guys?
I talked to 2 or 3 players in there, Liv, and they are locked and loaded. Darren Lee said, we're ready to play Sunday. The guys came back refocused after having the weekend off. And then I talked to veteran defensive tackle, veteran nose tackle, Steve McClendon. He said, if you don't want to play in a game like this, you shouldn't be playing football. This is a game that can be played in a telephone booth. There's not going to be a lot of space. Both clubs are going to try to match each other's physicality and intensity. You know Jacksonville is going to be they're going to be out for a victory themselves after losing last week. They had a tough ball game against the Tennessee Titans, losing a 9-6 contest at home. They are 7-1 after losses under Doug Marrone. The Jets want to get back to 2-2 before they start a 3-game homestand. But the feeling in there, the vibe inside the locker room was these guys are ready to play. They know it's going to be a tough ball game, but let's get it on.
Now, I know we don't want to harp too much on the loss against the Cleveland Browns, but what does this team really need to take away from that loss when heading to Jacksonville for another road game?
I think they just got to finish, right? Because they took a 14-0 lead over the Browns. They did a lot of good things early. I thought in the first half, controlled the line of scrimmage. We saw the run game get on track against the Browns. Isaiah Crowell now having 4 touchdowns on the 2018 season. Bilal Powell gave this team a lot of energy. The offensive line was getting good push early. Against Jacksonville, you're going to have some balance. You can't put this all on Sam Darnold. For the defense, it is all about finishing because they controlled the Browns early. The tenor of that ball game changed, we all know, as Baker Mayfield entered in late in that first half, and the Browns went on to a 21-17 victory. But I think the defense has taken some steps here early in the first 3 games this season. I think they're better overall than they were in 2017. And the presences of inside linebacker Avery Williamson and cornerback Tremaine Johnson have been big for this ball club, and you're getting other contributions from guys like Henry Anderson. For the Jets defensively, just get off the field on 3rd down and play for 60 minutes. That's what everybody was telling me inside the locker room today. You can't play for 50. You can't play for 45 minutes. You got to play a full 4 quarters in order to beat a team like Jacksonville. But the sky is not falling. The Jets are 1-2. There are a lot of teams in the National Football League are 1-2. Look at the New England Patriots. They just went to Detroit and lost on Sunday Night Football. A lot of football left to be played. The Jets have the right mindset right now.
Yeah, ironically, the Jets played the Jaguars at home in Week 4 last year, too. Big overtime win in a field goal, 23-20, and the Jets had a very strong run game, over 250 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. Is that going to be another big key heading to Jacksonville?
Yeah, you got to have balance against the Jaguars. They've improved defensively. They added former Bills defensive tackle Marcel Darius. I think that's helped them out a bunch. They also have Telvin Smith at the linebacker position. Miles Jack, he's all over the field. They got ball hawks back there in the secondary. But like you mentioned, Liv, last year at MetLife Stadium, ironically, it was a Week 4 meeting. The Jets had 256 yards on the ground. They averaged a gaudy 8 yards per carry. That's not likely to happen again, but you would love for the Jets to get the ground game on track with Bilal Powell and Isaiah Crowell. I think both of those guys are off to good starts this season.
One wide receiver that I know we've been talking about a lot, Quincy Enunwa, who has really shined for the Jets the past 3 games. And I know that you mentioned he is one of the players you see taking off. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Well, he's leading the team with 17 receptions. He's Sam Darnold's #1 target. On those offensive scoring possessions against the Browns, had a couple key 3rd down conversions coming off of screens. The next step for the offense for Sam Darnold and company is get some of these other guys going. I thought it was encouraging that Jermaine Kearse had a couple catches late in that ball game. Now let's see if the Jets might be able to get a shot or two down the field to lighten that box, because until that happens, I think teams are going to try to key on the Jets' run game and try to get after Darnold. But you lighten the box by getting some plays down the field.
So not only Quincy Enunwa, but the Jets offense as a whole has a tough challenge against this Jacksonville defense. And Coach Todd Bowles talked about that to the media earlier this week.
Just your overall thoughts about Jacksonville, coming off the game that they had. Do you expect them to be a little bit tougher this week?
Well, they're going to be tough out every week. They got talent at every level on both sides of the football. We played them the last 2 years. We know it's going to be a tough ball game. A talented group.
Is that as big a challenge for Sam as any because of how good their defense is?
Well, they're big every week. I don't think one's bigger than the other. It's the biggest one because it's the one this week, but everybody's going to have talented players.
What makes the Jaguars' defense one of the special ones in the league?
Like I said, they got talent on every level. And they got all-pro corners. They got ball-hawking linebackers. They got run stoppers and pass rushers, and they have two levels of them. It's not just like it's the first unit. The second unit plays pretty well too, and they're pretty well stocked over there.
So Tom, when you go up against a defense that's talented on every level, do you go try to attack whatever perceived weakness there is, or do you just try to do whatever your offense does best?
Because they're good doesn't mean you're not going to challenge them. I mean, we feel like we have good players too, and we're going to challenge them and do the things we need to do to win the ball game. Understandably, every week you're going to have to go through good players to try to win the ball game, and that's what we have to do. You can't shy away from them. You have to do your job better than they do their job.
Welcome back into practice today, presented by SiriusXM. Olivia Landis and Eric Allen here just outside the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. Be sure to watch Friday's practice today, presented by SiriusXM. We'll have Eric Allen and team reporter Ethan Greenberg, and that airs at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. So we heard Coach Bowles talk a lot about this Jacksonville defense and how they've gotten a lot better this year. So now I want to dive into the matchup to watch for this game, and I know that the Jets offense is going to have quite the challenge with this defense.
It's the Jets offensive line versus the Jaguars defensive line. The Jacksonville defensive line can really bring it. You're talking about Calais Campbell on the inside. They aforementioned Marcel Darius. We talked about him before. You just heard from Todd Bowles. Then you have a couple edge guys as well, bringing some heat, Dante Fowler and company. For the Jets, they have to have a big-time game up front. The last time they played against Jacksonville, they did just that. But make no mistake, Jacksonville is going to be coming after the quarterback. One thing that Tennessee did last week in their 9-6 victory over the Jaguars, they kept it moving on the ground, not a continuous. They weren't getting chunk plays on the ground always, but they kept after it with their ground game. And Marcus Mariota, the quarterback, picked up more than 50 yards on the ground. So the Jets, for them, you got to get Bilal Powell, Isaiah Crowell, and company involved. But listen, this is a big-time test for the Jets' offensive line. But we've been saying that for a few weeks now. Started with Miami and on the edge and Quinn and Cameron Wake. Then we went to Cleveland. It was Myles Garrett. This is just another good defense. But you can make an argument that the talent on all three levels that Jacksonville possesses, this might be the most talented defense in the National Football League. So the matchup to watch for me, definitely up front, Jets O-line versus Jags D-line.
So big matchup to watch, Jets offensive line and the Jacksonville defensive line. You mentioned how it's important for the Jets offensive line to take a lot of pressure off of Sam Darnold during this game and get the run game going. But how can Sam Darnold take control and really demand this offense heading into Jacksonville?
We've had a chance to talk to him a number of times this week. He came out to Inside the Jets. You can listen to that 7 p.m. or watch it on all Jets platforms on Monday nights because he and Josh McCown stopped by. You're also going to listen to that on ESPN radio. He said, listen, I have to trust what my eyes are seeing. And in quarterback terms, that is, if you see it and if you see it's open, let it go. If it's right there in that first progression, don't wait. Don't move off of it. Don't move in the pocket and let that pressure come to you. You just got to fire away. and he's got to trust his instincts. He's a very instinctive player. We saw a couple times where maybe he was scuffling against the Cleveland Browns. Is that going to happen from time to time? Listen, he's 3 games in to his NFL career, so he experienced a couple bumps against the Browns. I'm not worried about it. The advantage he is going to have this week, Liv, and he told us about this on Inside the Jets, is he's getting back to a normal preparation. You think about the Jets' grueling stretch to start. 3 games in 11 days. You start out playing Monday Night Football. Then it's a short week against the Miami Dolphins before the home opener. Then you got 2 days to prepare for the Cleveland Browns. Now he had a chance to get away. He went to the city. He had dinner with his friends. He took in Ed Sheeran concert, right? And then he got back to work on Monday. I don't know if you went to the concert.
I did not.
The guy can break it down. Darnold was happy about that. He's in a good frame of mind as he starts his work week.
Yeah, quickly, you mentioned Inside the Jets, and you had both guests, Josh McCown and Sam Darnold, on the show. What was something that stood out to you about Josh McCown when he talked about Sam, not only as an individual player, but really being a mentor to Sam?
McCown's a perfect mentor. I mean, we've been talking about it for months now. Who else would you rather have behind Sam Darnold as he starts his NFL career rather than Josh McCown? This is a guy who's playing in his 16th or 17th NFL season. He's played under so many different coordinators, but he knows this offense inside and out. He's got a very good relationship with Jeremy Bates, so he can be in Jeremy Bates' ear when he's on the sideline. And Darnold, the first guy he's talking to when he comes to the sideline, is the wily vet, Josh McCown. Because Josh McCown has seen so many things throughout the National Football League. They have a good relationship. The bond is real. One thing that struck out to me when I was in Richmond, Virginia, down there for joint practices, is that well after practice, it was a night, the guys got out after meetings, and those guys were at Chick-fil-A. Now, I know Chick-fil-A is not one of our sponsors, but listen, I'm just saying those guys are always together. No matter where the restaurant, they are always together.
Something I really love seeing, actually, when watching games, especially when I'm not at the away games, is seeing Josh McCown being one of the first people to congratulate Sam and get hyped on the sideline when Sam makes a good throw. When Darnold makes a good throw, that is something that's really exciting to see. Right now, we're going to go to Sam Darnold inside the locker room today. He spoke to the media and talked about how the 3 games in 11 days affected him and how he's looking ahead to Jacksonville.
Sam, it was only 11 days, but after those 3 games, do you already feel wiser as an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I truly believe, especially coming from college, obviously, and being a rookie in the NFL, you definitely learn from your experience, and I definitely learned a lot throughout these last, throughout the 11 days that we played, and learned a lot and learned some, I had some good experiences, and I also had some lessons that I learned, and I'm just going to continue to learn and grow as a quarterback.
You mentioned some of the things that you feel like you need to work on after those first 3 games, but you said that there were some good things that you did as well. I mean, looking back and reflecting, what were some of the things you were happy with that you've done so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done a pretty good job of keeping my poise in the pocket. Sometimes when I rush, but I've just kind of in the first couple games too. I thought I found completions. Didn't do as good of a job at that in the Cleveland game, but I just got to continue to, like I just said, just continue to do the things that are working. Continue to find completions, but also take my shots when they're there.
How much does the other team's pass rush kind of weigh on your mind going into a game? Obviously, the Jaguars have a pretty stout pass rush. How much do you kind of think of that in the lead-up and come game day?
Yeah, I mean, as a quarterback, you can't think about it. You got to trust that your guys are going to block up front and do their job. But at the same time, I mean, we know that they're great pass rushers. They're great at stopping the run. So, we got to do our part in stopping them and controlling the line of scrimmage. Like I said, with the run game and throwing the ball like we do, I feel like we have a chance for success.
Good to hear from the rookie quarterback inside the locker room today. Yeah, I believe you have an injury report update for us as of today's practice.
Well, it really seems like Marcus May is nearing a return for the Jets, and that is great news. And take nothing away from Doug Middleton, but getting May back in the lineup would mean you're close to full strength back there. And he practiced today on a limited basis, had the helmet on. Todd Bowles is not ready to declare him set for Sunday. We'll have to see how the practices progress over the next couple days. But Marcus May seems like he is nearing a return, could be in the lineup. And you know, the Melbourne, Florida native, the Florida Gator, is going to want to go home and play in front of a lot of friends and family. The other thing is Josh Martin, the outside linebacker, was limited in practice today. And let's go down to Jacksonville real quick. I will say that Leonard Fournette, dealing with the hamstring, has missed the last 2 games. The Jets, the guys I talked to in the locker room today, said, we're preparing like he's going to be in the lineup, so we'll have to see what happens with Fournette. But Steve McLendon said, hey, listen, we're ready to go. Fournette's coming. We're ready for him. If he's not coming, that's fine, too. Leonard Fournette is a tremendous player, but seems like good news on the injury front for the Jets. The guy we're going to have to monitor this week is Buster Screen. He plays that important nickel position for the New York Jets. He did not practice today. We'll have to see how he is throughout the week. Remember, his backup at that nickel is the 6th-rounder out of Tulane, Perry Nickerson.
We'll have more updates on an injury report for you all later in the week, especially on Sunday heading into Jacksonville. But we appreciate you guys tuning into today's show. Be sure to tune in to Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM this Friday. Ethan Greenberg and Eric Allen will be hosting that show at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time with more updates. We'll have right before practice starts. So be sure to tune in on Friday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. That wraps up today's Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. For Eric Allen, I'm Olivia Landis.